Well, hello guys and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be building this application with React Native, and let me show you what we have here. So it's basically a unit converter application, so we can convert values to different units, and we have a picker that we can choose the unit that we want to change and the destination of the unit. And here we have the results. So in this case, we are converting meters to kilometers, and we have a bunch of different units for each case. As you can see, the changes reflect right away. We also have a bunch of measures. So we have like mass, like volume, and then we have different units for that. And you can see we have a pretty large list of measures and units. And well, it's actually kind of simple, the project, but you could learn about the basics of React Native. You can improve your skills there with this simple project. And we also are using this tab navigation, so you can also learn how to do this with React Native. So before starting, I wanted to do a quick overview of today's sponsor, Feedback. So Feedback is a tool for React Native that you can use in your application that allows you to collect user feedback from your app. And it's really cool because it's really simple to use. You just have to install the package, and then you can just start using that. And well, you can also customize that. We have different properties, but this is the basic example. And only with these 2 lines of code, you can have this really nice UI that you can start collecting user feedback. And you also don't have to worry about the backend. So this comes with the service. And the nice thing is that you can start for free, so you will have 100 reviews per month, and then you can grow depending on the amount of feedback that you're receiving in your app. And another nice feature is that you can integrate this with different services using webhooks. So for example, you receive a new feedback entry, and then you can send a Slack notification. So definitely check that out. I will leave a link in the description. Now let's start with the project. Okay, so for this tutorial, we're going to be using Expo. Expo is a tool that allows you to build React Native applications pretty easily and simple. You could also use the React Native CLI, but well, for this tutorial, we're going to use Expo. So make sure that you have installed that in your system. You can install that. And also, of course, you will need Node.js. So make sure you also have that. So we need to install Expo globally if you haven't already. So we are going to use npm install -g for global, and then you can install the Expo CLI. I'm not going to install that because I already have that in my system. So once you have Expo installed globally, we're going to create a new Expo project. So that's pretty simple. We just run Expo init, and we have to choose different options. First, we need to choose the name of the app. So I'm just going to name it Unit Converter. Then we have to choose a template, and we have different options here. So we're just going to use the blank template. Make sure you are using the managed workflow, so we're going to use that. That's going to clone the template and install all the dependencies. In my case, is using Yarn because I have Yarn, but you could also detect or pass the npm flags to use npm instead. So I'll go back once this process is done. Okay, the process is now complete. First, we're going to cd into the project that we just created, and now we are going to install a couple of dependencies that we are going to use. So the dependencies that we need is first the dependencies for the tab navigation that we just saw. So for that, I'm going to add this package that's called React Native Tab Views. It's a really nice package, and actually is I think is the main one for tabs. So this is the package that we are going to use, and this package also needs a couple of different dependencies that we need to install. So the dependencies that we need is the React Native gesture handler and React Native reanimated. So an important thing here is that as you can see, we are not using yarn add, we are using expo installed for this. And the reason for this is that expo has, depending of the kind of SDK that you are using, it needs to install a very specific version of in this case of these libraries. So that's why we need to use expo, and this will take care of installing the correct versions that we need for these libraries. So make sure that you use expo install. This is really important for this step, and it will add, as you can see, the specific versions that we need. So finally, we need a last library, and this one is for converting the units. So we're going to use a library for that, and this library is called convert units. So we're just going to use yarn add for this case, convert units. It's a really nice library, has a lot of features, so definitely check that out, and we are just going to install that. Okay, now that we have everything, I'm going to open VS Code in this folder. So for doing that, I'm going to use this shortcut. You can just open VS Code if you want and open this folder, but I'm going to use this shortcut, and this should open VS Code. I'm going to move this to the left. So I have the code here, and I want to place the emulator here, but that's going to be after we run the development server. So for doing that, as you can see, we have this start script that we can run. So we can use yarn run start, or you can also use npm run start if you use it npm, and what this is going to do is going to open a development server that we can use for developing our application. So there are a couple of ways that you can run this project. You can run it even you can run it in a web browser. So there's a different options that you can use. So depending of what you prefer, you can use. So I think the easiest way to if you happen to have an Android device is to install the expo client. So the expo client is just an application that you can install in your phone. So you can install this in your Android phone. And once you have that installed, you open the app and you scan this QR code, and then the app will run in your device. So that's the simplest, easiest way. And also you can run this in emulators. So you can use an Android emulator, an iOS emulator. You can use the web. I will suggest you use actually a real device instead of the web, but you can use whatever you want. So we're going to use, in our case, we're going to use a simulator from Xcode. It's going to be an iOS emulator. And we have the emulator running, and we just click here, and that will start the application in the emulator. So first it will, in your case, I will think it will install, if you don't have the expo client there, it will install the expo client into the emulator. We're going to put this right here, and I'm going to use this extra space to have our code. So it's building everything. It should take a while, and now we should be ready to go. So if you open the app.js file, this is currently the root of our application, and you can see that we have this message. So you can change this text here, and the change should reflect right away. And now that we have that, we're going to start with the tab navigation. So for doing that, we're going to import the components for that. And we have these two components that we are importing from React Native tab view. We have the tab view component and the tab bar. So the tab view is basically all the tab wrapper that we have for all the tabs, and the tab bar is a custom component that we can use for rendering at the tab bar. We could just use the tab view without the tab bar, but we are going to customize this, so that's the reason why we are using this component. Next, we need to define some state for this to work. So the tab view component uses some state. So first it uses a state for keeping track of the indexes, so it knows what's the current index that's being used. So we are going to, from React, and by the way, we're going to use hooks. So we're going to use the use state hook that allows you to manage state locally in our component. And then we are going to declare this index and set index function using the state. And the initial index of the tabs is going to be 0. So that's one piece that we need. And then we also need to define the roads. So we need to define what are going to be the roads for this tab component. So for doing that, we are going to declare a new variable called roads, and in this case we're going to also use hooks for this, and the initial value is going to be, so the roads needs to be, is just an object that has some key and some, well, it's not an object, it's an array of objects that needs to have some key. So the key is going to be unique, so some key, and we need a title. So the title is going to be what we are going to display right here. So we are going to use, as you remember, we have a bunch of measures, but we are not going to type those measures manually one by one. We are going to use our library that we just installed. So we are going to import convert from convert units. So this is the library that we are going to use, and here we have a couple of methods. So we have this convert that, and we need to call this as a method, convert that measures, and what this is going to give us is a list of measures that we can use in our applications. It's just going to be an array of strings with all the measures. So this is one way of getting all the measures, and we can just define this up here as a const that's going to say measures equals convert that measures, and we have that right there. And here we can just map those measures to what we need. So we can, because this is an array, we can use the map method, and here we have a measure, a callback that we can use that's going to have a measure, and what we need to return is an object. So I'm using this parenthesis, so we just can return this object, and for each measure we're going to retrieve a key that's going to be the measure, and a title that's going to be also the measure. So here we have one small problem that we're going to address later. You will see what's the problem, but now let's move on. So we have the routes for each measure, and we could just check this by console.log the routes. So if we do that, we can see that we have an object for every measure. So that's really nice. And now we need to define one more thing. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to have a function that's going to render every tab for our application. So we can say render scene, and this is going to be the function render scene equals, so we're going to use an arrow function here, and here we are going to receive a route. So this route will basically be this object that we are going to receive here, this object for each route. And what we need to return in this case is a component. So for each route we need to return a component. So let's just create that component up here, and this component is going to be called measure view. This is going to be our components, and this component for now is just going to display some text. And here we are going to pass a measure as a property, and we are just going to display that measure here. Measure. This is going to be the component that we're going to use, and here we are going to return that component. So we can just return that here as JSX, and actually as this is an object, so we can just pass this like this. The property is measure, remember that's measure, and we can say that we are just going to pass the row.key because this is an object for that has these properties. So we are not seeing anything here because we are not displaying that with the correct with the components. So for doing that, we are just going to use the component that we imported, the tab view component. And here we are going to pass some properties. So the properties that we need is first the navigation state, and this is also going to be an object. And what this accepts, you can see as parameters, is the index and the rows. So that's why we needed this right here. So here's where we pass the index, and also we pass the rows. So we have that, and now we can also pass this render scene property, and here we just can use this render scene function, and this is what we can pass here. We also need to define what we're going to do when the index change. So we have this event on index change. We are going to pass this set index function. So that's that's the handler basically. That's going to set the new index. You could also do other custom stuff. And we also need to pass an initial layout. So this initial layout, it will be just, we are just going to define the width of the tab view, and the width is going to be all the width of our device. So for doing that, we can use these dimensions utility from React Native, and we can say that we are going to dimensions that get, we're going to get the dimensions of the window, and then we're going to access the width. So as you can see, we don't have anything here yet, but that's because we have to fix some styles. So this came with the template. So first I will change this to scene. This is going to be the name of this style. I'm going to change this here, and this only needs to have the flex of 1, this property of flex of 1, and you can see that now we have what we want. So we have a couple of tabs that are displaying, and we have a couple, as you can see, we have a couple of issues here that we are going to address. So first, we're going to customize this tab bar, so we can actually see the names of each tab. So for that, we can use this property here that's called render tab bar. So this is what we can use to render a custom tab bar. And here we can, well, I'm going to write this all in line for now, but you can also have a different component or a different function for this, but for now I'm going to do it in line. So this receives props argument, this function, and here we are going to return JSX. So you could have a custom component, but we are going just to use the component that we have for this package. So this component is right here, but we can change some things that we need to change. So the first thing is that we need to spread these props. So we need to spread the props that we already have here. That's important. And the next thing is that we want to enable the scroll. So because this is pretty large, this is like collapsing, and that's why we cannot see everything. But if we enable the scroll, we will be, as you can see, we now can see all of these tabs. So there's another thing that I want to fix right now before customizing this, is that you can see that this is collapsing with the status with the status bar. So in some cases this will not be the case. In some fonts this will not be the case, but in this, most of modern fonts has this kind of status bar right here. So we're going to add a margin here, and for that we are going to use this from expo constants. So this came with the template, this expo constants package, and here we're going to use the constants. And what we are going, I'm going to define this as an array, so we can have we can merge different styles. And in this view, I'm just going to add a margin top that's going to be constants that, and here we have constants for the status bar height. So this is going to push, it's going to add a margin the same height of this status bar. See, if the font does not have a status bar, it's going to be 0, so nothing happens. But in this case, you can see that's going to push the bar just before the status bar. So now looks way better. And here we have all the measures. The next thing that I want to do is that you can see that these tabs are pretty large, and that's because by default it computes some width for you, but we can change that here. And the way we change that is that we add this, we just add this tab style property that we can pass here. So this is going to be for the tab container, the style for each of these ones. And here we are just going to say that we're going to have a width of auto. So it's going to just fit the content of each. It's going to adjust for each tab, and now it looks way better because it only applies the what we need. The next thing that we are going to do here is we're going to change some colors. And this is optional, but I want to change some colors. So we're going to define a main color const here at the top of the file, and this is the color that we're going to use as a main color for almost everything. Is like a blue. Of course you can use any color you want, and it's just a string, an X string. And here we are going to say style, so we have this style property, and we're going to say background color, and it's going to be our main color. And now you can see that we have this kind of blue color here. And the last thing is that I'm going to change here is that we have this indicator style. So the indicator is just this kind of yellow line that we have here. I don't like that to be yellow, so I'm going to change it to a background color of white. So now we have white there, so it looks better. And that's pretty much it for this tab. So as I mentioned before, I mentioned that we have a little problem here in the titles of each tab, and the problem is that you can see that these, for example, these titles are without the space. This should have a space, reactive power, and this one also. And we can see, because everything is uppercase here by default, but this is actually using camel case notation. So this is lowercase and this first letter is uppercase. and that does not look good here. So actually I just I just searched for this function that in Stack Overflow that we are going to use to is just going to uncamel case this. So this is the function that I found, this one, and is just taking a value and replacing that. It's just a string. It's taking this string and replacing that with a space. So with a regex, that's going to add a space here, and that's what we are going to use. So just feel free to pause the video and copy this regex, and here we can use these functions. We are going to use the onCamel case function, and we are going to pass the value, and this case is the measure. So if we use that, we should now have a space for these measures, and you can see that we have now the space, and this looks better. Okay, now let's add a title here. So we're just going to add a title, and I'm going to do that just here, just above this tab view component. We're going to use the text component, and we're going to define a new title style, and the title is just going to be unit converter. It's going to be right here. And now let's define the styles for that title. So here we are going to have these styles. We're going to have a padding, some font weight of bold, so it looks strong. The color is going to be our main color. The size is going to be 20, so it's a little bit bigger. We're going to align everything to the center, and everything is going to be uppercase. And there we have it. We have our title, so now it looks better. Now let's work in the content of each tab. So this is going to be where we actually transform the units. So we're basically going to use this component right here. So let's grab this in a view. And here we actually are going to restructure this to have like we're going to use these braces to actually have a real function that we can add some logic. We of course need to return the JSX right here. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have all the units for each measure. So we are going to have, for length, we are going to have centimeters, meters, and all of that. So we can say const that units equals, and for having these units, we can just again use our library. So we can use convert that, and here we have a possibilities method, and this is going to give us an array with all the units that this measure can have. So for length, we're going to have all the units that is possible for this, and the measure we can just pass here, measure without an S. Here we're going to have all the units that we need for every tab. Then we are going to display those units in our component. So first let me add a style here. So the style is going to be styles.scene, is the style that we already defined. And here we're going to have another view that's going to have, we actually don't need this right here, and this view is going to have some styles that row that we don't have yet. So let's create those styles, and this is just going to have a flex of 1. The direction is going to be row, and we're going to align the items to the center. So we have the style, we have the units, but for displaying we are going to use a picker. And actually this picker does not come with React Native, so we need to install it. It used to come in React Native, but now is provided by a different package. And the package that we need is this one. So make sure that you use expo install, because this also needs to be a specific, we need to use a specific version, and it comes from React Native community /picker. So this is the package that we need, and we are just going to install that. Shouldn't take that long. And now that that's installed, we are going to import that picker in our application. We have the picker there, and now we can start using the picker. So I'm going to close this one, and here I'm going to start using the component. So we have the picker, but we need to have an item for every unit that we have. So we are going to use a map array function with these curly braces in the EXX. So we're going to loop over the units that map, and here we have a callback that has all the units. So I'm just going to use that, and we have the unit, and we also have an index, and here we need to return JSX, and the JSX is going to be our picker, that item. So for each unit we're going to display this component, and this component needs a couple of properties. So we first need the label, and the label is just going to be the unit. We can rename this so it's more clear. So we need a unit, we need the label, we also need the value. So the value is also going to be the unit, and we need a key. So the key is to let React when to re-render this or when to not, and the key is going to be our index. So it's not showing anything because we don't have any style. So let's add this style. So we are going to name these styles as column, because this is going to be a column. So for now it does not have anything, but we are going to create this column style, and it's just going to have a flex of 1, a margin left of 20, and a margin right of 20. So right now you can see that we already have that, and it's not working because we need to add state to this component. So if we go back here, we're going to first declare the state. We're going to use state, and the state that we're going to use is from unit. So we need a from unit that we've start and a to unit that we are going to convert. So the first unit we're going to call it from unit, and we also need the setter. So set from unit, and the initial value is going to be or units. It is going to be the first value in this array. So this is going to be the initial value, and now we are going to say that the selected value, this is a property from the picker, equals the from unit. So this is the value, and then we need to use this onValueChange event, and when this change, we are going to use this as a handler, the set from unit from the useState hook. And now the picker should work because we are updating the state. Now that we have the picker, we need an input we're going to use an input for displaying for entering the value that we actually are going to convert. So after this picker, we're going to add a view that's going to have the style that we define as column. So it's going to be a column here, and here we are going to use the text. We need first to import the text input component from React Native. So this allows us to enter text there, and here we are going to use again a state. So this is going to have a state of it's going to be called value, and then we are going to declare the setter, and again we're going to use state, and the initial state is going to be a string of 0, and this is important because this uses strings as values. So then we can just pass the value here in the text input, and every time this changes this is not the component that we need to use. We need to use the text input component. This is the component that we need, and this component has this onChangeText method. So every time the text changes, we are going to set the new state, and there we have that. We are also going to define this keyboard type property, and this is important because we are going to just display the numeric keyboard. In this case, we don't have the user to enter strings, letters, so they're only going to be able to enter numbers, and here we can define this as numeric. So this is going to be the value for this value. And the last thing is, you can see that we already have that there, is that we are going to define some styles. So I'm going to pass these styles that input, and we don't have that yet, so let's add here. So input, and this is going to have, the following. So we're going to have a height of 40, a border color. It's going to be the main color, and this we're just going to add a border to the bottom. The font is going to be a little bit bigger, 30, and we are going to center everything. So you can see that now we have looks better, and this is just going to be for the from unit, but we also need to have almost the same thing for the what we are going to convert. So if I just copy and paste if I copy this row and I paste this right here, we now have two rows that have almost the same thing. And what we need to change is that this is not going to be an input, and we are going to manage a different state here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, and this is going to be called toUnit and set toUnit, and the initial value is going to be the second value of the units, and don't worry, because this will always have more than one value, so we can just use the second value, just not to have the same exact measure in both places. And now in our second row we can just bind that in the picker. So the picker, the selected value is going to be toUnit, and when this changes, we're going to set the toUnit. So now we should have different values, and you can see that we have different values here. So that's one thing, but now this is not longer going to be or a text input. It's just going to be a text component, and again we're going to use the state here. So the state that we are going to call this is going to be value converter, and we are going to use this setter called set value converter, and we again are going to use state, and in this case we can use a number, because this is just going to be displayed. And here I'm going to change this to remove these properties. We need to close this, because now we need to add a value inside here. That's going to be the value converter. And you can see that this value is now static. So we can merge two styles here. So we can have this, and I want this to look a little bit bigger. So we're going to use an array here, so we can merge two styles. And here I'm just going to change the size to 40, so it's a little bit bigger. And maybe I can also change the weight, so we have a bold, just to to know which one is the result. And of course this is only read only, and we have that, but now we need to actually convert the values. And for doing that, we are going to use another hook. It's going to be the use, this is not here, this is here. It's going to be called the use effect hook, And what we are going to use, so this effect runs every time the component re-renders, and is usually used for the first time the component renders, but we're going to use every time, and we can use this with some dependency lists. So we are going to run this every time the value changes, and also every time the from unit changes, from unit, and every time the to unit changes. So every time this value changes, we are going to execute this hook. That's going to do is going to set the new value converter. So we are going to convert the values. And how we do that is actually pretty simple. Using the library that we imported, we have some really nice methods. So the first, we're going to call the convert method, and here we need to pass a value. So remember that the value is a string, but we can use this plus signal, this plus symbol here, plus, and we can use the value. So what this plus is going to do is going to transform this string to a number. So we're now transforming that, and then we can still use the library. So we have this from method, and the from, we need to pass a unit, and the unit is our from unit. Then we can use this to method, and of course this is going to be the to unit state. And then we can use this to fixed method, because we don't want to display all the decimals. So this is going to just display a certain amount of decimals, and the number of decimals that we're going to use is just 2. So now every time, and you can see that now it's working. Well, this is transforming, is adding the decimals. So now every time we change this, it gets transformed to the correct conversion. And if we change this, because we are running this use effect, every time it changes, it computes a new value. And the nice thing is that if we change between tabs, the units gets updated. So there's actually one issue, and if I add a new value and a value here, and I change the tab, you can see that the value only stays in this tab. So maybe we want to have a central source of truth for the value. So we can do that pretty easy. So the only thing that we need to do is we are going to add the value in the root component. So we can have the value here. Then we can pass the value here as a property, and also the set value here as another property. And here in the component, we're going to read that. So we're going to read the value and the set value, and we need to remove this from here. So now we have the value is in the root component. If we save and we start changing this here, then you can see that the value is still in other tabs, because we have that centralized there. So the last thing that I am going to add is really small change. Is just adding an icon here that the user can see. So now this is going to be transformed to this unit. So we are going to use this from, and also this also comes from the template. We have this expo vector icons package, and here we're going to use this simple line icons component, and what we are going to add is just another row here, and well, it needs to be here, and it's just going to have, well, you can see already. So it has the name, and the name is going to be this arrow down circle name. Is this icon is going to have a size of 40. The color is going to be the main color, and it's going to align to the center. So just a really small final touch, so it looks better. So that's pretty much everything, guys. I hope you enjoy this project. It was a really simple and nice project. And well, if you like the content, please like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next time. Bye.